Hello and welcome to another episode of Next Generation's First Generation. I'm your host, Sascha Shouties, and with me today I have our co-host, Patrick Delmore.
Live long and prosper.
Yay, Pat. This is going to be a really fun episode. We are watching the second part of Unification today. So for those of you who don't know, this is where Spock makes a comeback to our Next Generation crew, and that will mean that we will have had Spock and Scotty and Dr. McCoy. Was there anybody else that came in on Next Gen from the TOS series?
Those are the main ones. Yeah, Scotty hasn't happened yet.
Yes. No, that's the Dyson Sphere. I think that's a little on. I think it may be in the 6th season. So without further ado, please queue up your viewing devices, and we will have this running on the Netflix version. So just go ahead and we're going to give you a countdown. And when we hit play or say play, go ahead and hit play. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and play. Oh, Gene Roddenberry, he passed away 1921 to 1991. That's kind of a big deal.
Because it's taken me a second to load.
Oh no.
We're mostly in the same spot.
the Admiral
and our last time on, which it's funny because last time we actually recorded the episode that comes after this.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of this we recorded down at Next Gen, First Gen South, way back in September. You're listening to this in what, November?
Yeah, just about late October, November, I think. It would be November 11th, Veterans Day.
Holy smokes. Getting my time and a half at work.
Woohoo. So they're just doing the recap right now. If you remember, Data and Picard are dressed up as Vulcans, and they've beamed aboard a Klingon ship to go to the Romulan Empire cloaked. And here the Enterprise is under attack by some kind of, I don't know, pirated trader or something. But they're just trying to figure out what's going on, as we all are. And of course, as you remember, Picard and Data are captured on Romulus, but it's not by the government. It is by no other than Spock himself, which is a great reveal because now Leonard Nimoy has his credit to 2 episodes when he literally only had 3 seconds of airtime on the first.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you actually didn't know, like, at all that he was going to show up? I mean, this was still at a time when that could happen. I mean, they talked about it for a while that he was coming, and everybody was very excited.
I wonder if Gene would have wanted to be there to just kind of watch the old series and the new series meet again.
I don't know what he would have made of it. I think he would have wanted more Spock Data and less Spock Picard. But it's funny because Picard is kind of playing the role that McCoy played in Star Trek 3, where he doesn't quite have Sarek's Katra, but he's got the closest thing to it. There's all of his memories, and we're going to have a weird, everything you always wanted to know about your dad, but we're afraid to ask moment between these two.
I don't know. With a Katra, I mean, is there a filter there? Like, I don't want to know everything my dad did. That'd be kind of gross.
Yeah. Well, I think Spock is good enough at being Spock that he can filter stuff out.
And here's Spock's reaction to Sarek is dead. He turns and does a contemplative walk. Mm-hmm. He gathers himself. Will he turn around? Yep, he's going to turn back around again, and seems like he's got a let's continue with business kind of attitude.
It's funny. My dad was always bothered by the idea of the Spock Uhura coupling because he was like, he would only have to like hold hands with Uhura for 5 minutes and get the entire stretch of what a relationship with her would be like.
Well, holding hands with a Vulcan, I mean, that's pretty much marriage right there.
Yeah. Or letting them give you a back massage like on Enterprise.
Well, the movies don't count.
Which is my least watched show. Well, what's funny is that the movies do count. Because
it's in a different universe, though.
Yeah, but except for with Spock. This Spock, working on Romulan unification, Romulus blows up and that sends him to the other universe. This is the last time we see Spock before the movies, it's just called Star Trek from 2009.
So let me kind of turn back the clock here. Back to the 1990s version of myself in 1991. Why does Spock want to reunify Romulus? Like, I never understood that. It just didn't make any sense.
From an anthropological point of view, it's just, here are, two societies that could actually work better together. I mean, the humans aren't going to fix this problem. The idea is that Spock thinks that, infinite diversity and infinite combinations can work great together, right? And there's actually very little diversity between the Romulans and the Vulcans, so they should be able to work together. Spock would never want to keep two groups separate that could be together.
I guess they have that shared history, but the value systems of the two species are so radically different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do know that the Undiscovered Country, which we just reviewed, actually comes out a few weeks after November 11th.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember exactly when, even though we reviewed it. It came out December 6th, so just under a month. So I'm wondering also if this was kind of a deliberate plant to kind of build enthusiasm for the movie as well.
Oh, it definitely is. They already knew what was going to happen in the movie, and they make reference to the Khitomer Accords with Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. The whole Romulan Vulcan thing just never sat with me as a child, and it doesn't make much sense now. For two societies to come together, they need to have common ground, and that is just something that these don't really have, other than in the repressed society of Romulus, people are interested in learning about their heritage, and that's pretty much the only foothold that Spock has. Is that, for example, a little kid says, hey, I've got these old Vulcan toys and I'd like to learn how to use them. And I think we see that as an example in this episode, to tell you the truth.
Well, also, if you're a young person on Romulus, I know even if you're indoctrinated, you still understand that a Vulcan can go places and do things that a Romulan can't do. Now you can become a spy and pretend you're a Vulcan, but you still have to go back to Romulus. And if you do end up defecting, they'll kill you, or you'll end up having to commit suicide. So, what if that world did expand? And as I said, humans aren't going to be the ones to do it. Klingons sure aren't going to be the ones to do it. The only people who can do it are the Vulcans. And we know from Discovery that in the future they are a unified planet, because of course Romulus explodes.
Okay.
So that accelerates it, because they're like, now we don't have a home world.
Yeah. So basically to create some space for them after their homeworld is gone.
I mean, like we've said, there are like aliens that are truly, completely different than everything else, that have completely different physiologies. The Romulans and the Vulcans really don't. It's just that they have different political ideas.
Well, they have those weird little lumps on their head too.
Yeah, as
the migraine bumps.
Yeah. Greatest Generation calls those loafs. Great loaf.
You know what's kind of interesting about that is the Romulan personality is just as reserved and tempered as the Vulcan. They're both very strict when it comes to behavioral code. Like, you don't really see an angry Romulan, with the exception of what Sela does, the only blonde Romulan in the Empire. They're always kind of measured when they do have an emotional reply. It's usually in the form of a witty put down. But you don't see them losing control, and that's a commonality with the Vulcans. So I'm wondering if the Romulans found a way to retain their emotional expression without going batshit crazy like the Vulcans do.
Maybe. I mean, that they do enjoy one-upsmanship. They enjoy tricking people. And again, these are traits that are more, societally learned traits than are actually genetically inherited traits. A Vulcan raised by humans is just as likely to act like a human as anyone else. You got Michael Burnham raised by Vulcans, who most of the time acts pretty Vulcan-y.
Yeah, true. Okay, so
these are all just attitudes that are caught and taught, not things that they're born with.
They're taught cultural traits rather than inherited ones.
Right. Let's say to that. Now, who it wouldn't make sense for Spock to try to unify with would be somebody like the Borg. Like there's nothing he can do. It's like, he could be assimilated, and then they would have, Spock knowledge.
Well, you'd have to take the Janeway approach of unification with the Borg. She would want to just pull people out one at a time and teach them how to be human. This is Leonard Nimoy's first appearance as Spock for about 18 years, by the way.
No. Star Trek 5.
Well, no, this came out before Star Trek 5. So technically it's...
No. Watching Star Trek 5.
Oh, 6. Yeah, no, my bad. When did Star Trek 5 come out?
2 years before that.
Oh, my notes are all efforted up. I have to take that back. Yeah. Everybody hit the erase button.
On television as Spock, but I think he did stuff like he'd show up as Spock as like a joke on what's Carol Burnett show and things like that.
Right.
He'd get into the ears for a gag.
Oh no, the Leonard Nimoy was constantly doing the hustle to try to do just about anything, and so he milked that character pretty well when it came to PR. And he was doing lunch dates, he was doing appearances. Well, you even remember that Bilbo Baggins song that he sang.
Yes.
And he never came out and said he was Spock, but he played the character in order to sell it, if that makes any sense.
2 books. One was called I Am Not Spock, and the next one was called I Am Spock. So
yeah. Well, he strikes me as a person who's both elated and frustrated that he's locked in the part.
It's that voice. Like he can't ever not sound like Spock. And nobody, unless they really decided to smoke as many cigarettes as he probably did, will ever sound like Leonard Nimoy's version of Spock.
So who's this guy that they're talking to? This is a government official, if I remember correctly.
It represents a guy that is kind of a new consul who sounds like he's in favor of unification.
Oh, it's the Star Wars scene.
Yeah. This is great. This whole section here.
Those crow sculptures, by the way, A, are really freaky, and B, were in the Encounter at Farpoint episode.
Huh.
And also in the last episode, All Good Things.
Nice.
They were part of Q's courtroom. This woman looks like she gives zero fucks and has a lot of fun.
I know.
She's the kind of person who doesn't really care how awkward you were. She'll just shove a drink in your hand and then bullshit with you.
Want to buy a death stick? No. You want to go home and rethink your life.
What is this lady's name? I know her from somewhere.
She pretty much plays characters like this. But
right?
No, I don't know off the top of my head.
No, we'll find it.
This is really the first time that the seeds for Deep Space Nine are planted, where it's like you see Ferengis kind of, dealing with the Federation before this, but you don't ever see one in its, its natural like business habitat until this episode. All this feels like something that could have been on a first or second season episode of Deep Space Nine before the Dominion became a big part of the story.
Oh yeah. Well, whenever we see is the civilian side of things, it's always kind of it's a dumpy bar. Mm-hmm. There are no nice, clean places in the Federation, unless it's a starbase. Oh, here we go. Mr. Riker playing on the keyboard. He's trying to teach her a lick or two. Oh, she's going to accompany with him. Look at that. That must have been a lot of fun for the person standing behind her.
Yep. It's probably a Muppet scenario where they're probably scrunched down under the back of her costume.
I guess originally Leonard Nimoy had asked for $1 million to come in on this episode.
That's not much in today's TV money.
No, it is not.
I like that they really stuck with this design of Romulus.
Yeah.
Even in Nemesis.
Okay, so here's the first formal greeting of the Vulcans and the Romulans.
And they point out, this is how closed of a society Romulus is. Spock at this point is arguably one of the most famous people in the world. And he can walk around Romulus without anybody
knowing who he is.
Yeah, to coin a phrase, nobody will raise an eyebrow.
Those Romulans and their light pink walls.
Yep. It's like a McDonald's from the late 1980s.
Mm-hmm. That's a great light on the table, by the way. So originally, from what I read somewhere, we could accidentally see a boom operator's reflection in that lamp, but then it got digitally erased, I guess you could say, when they remastered it.
That's why they can't ever release these as widescreen, is even though they were shot in widescreen. The shots were so planned out, there'd always be extra props and stuff lying around, booms and people hanging out and smoking.
So this is going to play out where the proconsul is just kind of, I think, gaslighting Mr. Spock here to say, oh yeah, we're totally into this. Let's try to get some support.
That's how they negotiate. They never say what they mean. And Picard understands that. Spock still, as good as a diplomat he is, he believes that people are direct with it. He believes that people are as direct with him as he is with them.
Mm-hmm.
he's never lost that.
Well, in diplomacy, is it good form to be direct with what you want or to be obscure about it?
Depends on what result you think you'll get by doing one or the other. Now, after this was made, they did some connecting tissue with the original series on Star Trek Continues. They had Spock and the woman from the Enterprise incident, the Romulan woman. He was being manipulated, Spock was, by dreams. And this woman was talking about how she was really interested in unification. And Spock got kind of excited and then said, "Oh, no, you're acting as I wish you would act, not as you actually would." So he does have some BS radar.
Yeah. Well, for the big reveal to the viewer, if they couldn't pick up the subtext of diversion that the proconsul was making, as soon as Spock left, they had the closet door open and out came Sela, our blonde Denise Crosby / Tasha Yar daughter. So then the evil music plays. So like, oh, okay, I get it. They're being insincere. It's manipulation because the music told me so.
I feel like Spock would be able to get a lot more done on Romulus, even as a guy in the underground, than she would out in public, because she's half human and the daughter of a Starfleet officer.
She has to probably get that a lot, walking around like, whoa, what's up with you? I've never seen a blonde Romulan before.
Got to give him the Lucy Liu treatment from Kill Bill. Just cut off anybody's head that questions her human heritage.
Yeah, there you go. Well, she would have to. If I remember correctly, she, in the Klingon Civil War episode not too long ago, she actually railed against her mom, saying that, hey, she tried to kidnap me from my home.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to reading at least one novel with the Sela character in it.
Oh, yeah?
He doesn't get an arc really on this. I think this is the last time you see her.
Oh, do we? Oh,
yeah. In any episodes after this.
I believe you are right. I'll have to do some Googling. But I think you're absolutely correct. Oh boy, that Ferengi Omag is so ugly. I don't think we've seen him yet. He's about to come on. He's the fat Ferengi that Will Riker's trying to find, and he was playing.
Yeah, in our where we are in the time, in the real world timeline right now, where we have all these people complaining that they saw a Ferengi in a Starfleet uniform on an ad for Discovery.
Oh, come on!
And they didn't like the makeup.
I think it's totally okay for shows to evolve and change and take new creative spin. Because if you don't have any change, every single freaking reincarnation is just going to look like Star Wars.
Yup.
Star Wars has the same theme all the time. Nothing's reimagined. So it kind of gets me thinking about a choir I used to belong to. Just a little community group, a SAT-B choir, and we would sing at community centers and churches and just generally have a good time. But we were only getting senior citizens, and we wanted to kind of make it bigger. And so the politics within the group was, well, how can we... Everyone was frustrated that we weren't really growing our base, and we were just stuck with all these old fogies, churches and senior centers, but nobody would be willing to listen to any new ideas or try new suggestions. Or if we did, there was a lot of resistance and fighting. And it led me to believe that the choir politics was, we want things to change by having them stay exactly the same. And I really feel that next gen and TOS era fans very much are dug in that same mentality. Yeah, we want Star Trek to change, but it's got to stay exactly the same.
Yeah, people were pissed about Deep Space Nine. They were pissed about this show too. I don't remember because I was not, because I wasn't internet savvy, in 1995 when Voyager came on. I really don't remember any backlash against that. I actually think a lot of people liked Voyager quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of base for everybody. There's the people that think Deep Space Nine is the best, which I'm on that team. And there's the people that think Voyager is the best, but Voyager is the peacemaker of all of those shows. It's you don't have Discovery without Voyager.
That's true. Well, Voyager kind of introduces we're going to take a crew and just throw them in the middle of nowhere. And they kind of write the book for how to operate on your own.
Yeah. What I meant to say was you don't have Lower Decks without Voyager. But yes, also Discovery. No, Lower Decks takes quite a bit from Voyager and Next Generation.
Okay, here's Worf. He's going to request some Klingon opera, which we first hear of.
I love that now we know that there are a lot of other styles of Klingon music besides this. But this is just Michael Dorn busting loose. And thankfully, they let him do this a lot more on Deep Space Nine, because he was not ever used to his full potential on Next Generation. I've rewatching these episodes, you go back and it's like, here's a guy who is now the most prolific character in all of Star Trek, and they had nothing for him other than it's a Klingon.
Well, he was lucky in that he was given a lot of latitude to just make the character interesting. And when you listen to the actual actor, Michael Dorn, he seems to have that kind of charisma where it's like, hey, let me give this a shot. And people are open to see. Yep. Mr. Omak.
Space Nine Science. These are ladies that hang out on the station. I mean, holy smokes.
They are vicious trollops.
Yeah.
Give me more fish sauce. There's not enough hoisin in this hoisin. We need more pants.
I know that it looks like it's an actual Earth fish. Now, the idea would be that you would go to some place like this and get actual food, not replicated.
Yeah. Right. Boy, that woman that he's with, her hair, she stole that from the set of Babylon 5, I think.
We weren't quite at Babylon 5 yet.
No?
No.
Year. Babylon 5 came out a few years later when DS9 launched.
Yeah, 93 or 94. So about at least 2 years, if not 3. But what's his name? J. Michael Straczynski was over working on the real Ghostbusters.
Really?
Finishing up its run, yeah. I think 91 was the last season of that.
Yeah, this is the 6th and final season of the Sela arc, by the way.
Yeah. So I'll be excited to read what little of her there is in the novels. Of course, it's from the initial pocketbook era where they couldn't really have characters and stories carry over more than one book. I'm reading the books that took place during the 7 seasons, but I'm still excited to get there. I believe the book is called The Romulan Stratagem. It has both her and Ensign Rowe on the cover. Hey, there's Troy.
Yay.
Troy working hard or hardly working.
Is this before or after Disaster?
After.
This is after, right? Where's Rowe? And why isn't Troy in her new fancy pants blue uniform that she usually wears.
Doesn't get into that until what's his face? Ronnie Cox tells her to start wearing one. But I think Ro was in 4 or 5 episodes this season. She was a featured cast member, not a regular.
Yeah, I want to say she had probably
not a main cast member.
I want to say she had about 15 episodes. I could be wrong.
Less than that. I think she had less than 10.
Less than 10? Okay.
She's got her handful this season, and then she comes back and does Preemptive Strike.
Creepy. All right, I got to clear my Google history. I just typed in Ensign, but Ensign Ro populated. I promise I have not been Googling her frequently, repetitively, over and over and over again. Man, I'm surprised that a bird of prey, a cloaked bird of prey, can just kind of hang out in orbit of Romulus for so long. You think that this is two civilizations that both equally can use and share cloak would have a way to know if someone was just hanging out for a while.
Truth. But sometimes you just let a spy be a spy, which is what the Soviet Union and the US did during the Cold War.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
That's why it was cold. It was like we knew there were spies. They knew there were spies. As long as those spies didn't do very specific things. It was a live and let live culture.
Yeah. So here we go. Now we have the Federation talking to Spock and this other guy. And they know they're being deceived, but they're not really sure why. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah.
This would be a big deal, just them walking around on Romulus in their Starfleet uniforms.
In uniform.
Yeah.
Armed. That's kind of like going to the back alleys of DC and finding a North Korean in full uniform just walking around talking to people in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
There's Sela, the android she's come to respect in battle. But she didn't really fight him.
Yeah, she did. He was the captain of that ship.
Is it a battle, though, if they've actually fired any weapons?
It was a battle. They tricked her.
Oh, I guess. I mean, they fired low yield torpedoes just to reveal that they were there. So, okay. Oy. So this guy was actually a double agent working for the goodies and working for the baddies. Now he's going to go collect his attaboy from Sela. Here's a treat. That's a good proconsul.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that didn't make sense to me as a child, is that the hidden plot is that, yes, they want the Romulans do want to go visit Vulcan and them all come together, but under Romulan rule. And it doesn't make sense to me how they could just invade a Federation planet and not expect an all-out war. It's like the ends don't justify the means, I guess you could say.
Depends how they did it. If it was, and again, they couldn't make it look like the Federation had nothing to do with it, because Data and Picard are there on orders from the Admiralty to see if Spock had defected or not. So yeah, none of this would have worked on the Romulans' end, because the brass is already quite aware of everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm. I still have to say those matte paintings are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the guy actually won some awards for doing them too.
It's a major award.
Oh, this is a really good joke. Data says, I don't get to do writing often in this job. And Data just suggests, oh, maybe you'd be better at a different job.
Yeah.
You know what, Data? You're right. Here, I'm done. You guys can finish a speech. I'm going to go write that book I've been working on. Have you ever heard someone say that they hate a job so much that when they quit, they're going to write a book on this place?
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see something like that with the Star Trek theme where someone just like quits the Tal Shiar and writes a book because it's a hostile work environment or something.
I'm sure there are a lot of books by Cardassians about stuff about that.
Right?
Shoot, and Romulans that survived the planet blowing up. You know what Tasha's or what Sela's book would be called, though, right?
What's that?
My Mother the Yar.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we doing? We're talking. We're negotiating. Someone will be entrenched. Spock looks unsure. Sela is still talking. There we go. The first real thing that Spock will say, well, I'm not going to read this. Then you will die. All of you will die.
Well, we'll just make a hologram of you read it.
Right? I mean, they have more than enough information to do a deep fake.
Yep. That's so funny is that nobody had really thought of the concept of being able to do that at this point.
Well, we're about to, but Data gets the hair wrong. Oh, there we go. There's the deep fake.
Yep.
Man, if Charles Barkley were here, he'd get this thing wrapped up in like 10 minutes and turn it into a Playland fantasy.
It's funny because he's like, well, what? Why is it wearing the Romulan clothes? Wouldn't that be weird? Couldn't you put him in like a Federation ambassador's uniform?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, this goes back. How good is your short-term recall? Vulcans of this time and era, do they wear shoulder-padded square tunics? We know the Romulans do. Those are huge shoulder pads. By
Derek in his white 1980s fantasy robes, but
why are they leaving them alone in their
office?
Hey,
so we're in this office. You want to see if we can open anything that doesn't explode?
Let's go through her desk and steal all the pencils. Whoa, there's a 3-hole punch. I'm totally going to take that. Oh, there's her stapler. Let's bend it so it doesn't staple quite right.
Sela's diary. She's deathly afraid of tiny bubbles. And the number 3.
And the number 3. So they found a Romulan vessel moving at warp 1. They're not in any hurry. And they are a peace envoy from Romulus to Vulcan.
Do we think that Riker knows how to chart headings? Like when he asks Worf what the heading is and Worf gives him a number. Do you think that he's really in his head being like, I hope he doesn't give me a number and says where we're going because I can't follow what he's talking about if he just reads the number? That's kind of the look out of his face.
I've given this a lot of thought. And so the heading is relative to your position. So if you have multiple starships throughout an area, they can't all go on the same heading of 29 degrees and meet up at the same place because it's relative to the ship. So the ship is just a compass, 360 degrees, 0 being right in front of you, and then like a clock or a compass going around. Oh, there's Riker's hair. Look at that. Yeah. So anyway, you'd have to know where the ship is in order to do a correct heading. Oh, there we go. Walking through the walls, punching people, pointing guns.
The old neck pinch, the old Picard punch. Calls it.
But when you look at the entire history of Spock in dangerous situations, this is a pretty dull day at the office.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kidnapped not kidnapped. He's stolen starships. He's dressed as a gangster. He's traveled in time.
I wish that Picard had said, "Would you enjoy some of my Aunt Adele's Sunday punch?" Yeah. I don't think he enjoyed it.
So why would Dr. Crusher come to the bridge and say we've received a distress call? Wouldn't that call come routed directly to the bridge?
No, not if it's a medical distress thing.
I guess.
She would be the one to make those determinations. She probably gets distress calls of various priority all the time because they are the flagship and they have probably have the best medical facilities of any.
Enterprise operator, how can I direct your call?
It probably is somebody who does that too.
Yeah, I've got a distress call I gotta make.
What is the nature of your distress call?
We're sick.
Please wait, transferring you to medical.
It's strange.
Oh, can I talk to Dr. Crusher? Oh, she's not here. Will you settle for Dr. Pulaski? No, never mind. I'll call back.
Bring me the lieutenant that turned into an iguana.
Yeah. That guy.
All right. So Data can't do much from this console other than destroying a transmitter. They're not going to get their speech out. Oh no, they're gonna read a different speech.
Yeah.
Spock's gonna come out and say, "Just kidding, they're soldiers. They should turn around."
That would be adorable if Spock really did say, "Just kidding."
It's
I'm
a pressure.
Spock.
It's a
Be
pressure
serious.
pinch. It is not. It is not a special thing that Vulcans can do. Anybody can do a neck pinch as long as they've got the arm strength.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the bruising you get after a neck pinch?
Oh yeah, no fun.
Makes me wonder how they came up with the neck pinch. If I remember the story correctly, Leonard Nimoy didn't want to use a weapon and he needed some non-lethal way to incapacitate somebody.
I want to say it was a karate chop that they had asked him to do. I'll just do this thing instead.
Wow, the Romulans just destroyed their thousands of soldiers just like that.
Yeah.
That's a freaking war crime right there. Genocide? I don't know. What do you call it?
I think that you have to have planned to kill a bunch of people. A genocide is like, it would be like if they were going to kill everybody on Romulus. That'd be a genocide.
I guess. Well, insurgents live in caves. If that's anything that Star Trek has taught us, it's that.
Could you imagine how awful you'd have to be able to be in a situation where you were debating with somebody whether or not what you did was genocide or not?
That'd be tough.
It has to be more than a certain number of people to qualify.
Well, I know in the real world that when diplomats use the term genocide, it's a legal term. So it has to meet certain conditions. And that's one of the bigger insults is that a lot of people will dance around and avoid using the word genocide because once you do, it's declared and you have to have a very specific reaction on a global level. That's why everybody was so pissed when the Rwanda thing happened back in the 90s, because the response was impotent from the international community.
and with Star 4 as well.
Well, Spock just said, dang, we can't fix it. Oh, well, I'll just stay here and teach kids how to use their Vulcan dreidels.
Yeah, I'm going to create a Romulan version of Sesame Street.
Spock says, boo. Did Vulcan, sorry, not Vulcan, did Spock and Picard ever share Sarek's Katra at all? I missed
They're
that.
going to do it right now.
Oh, are they? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Hey, look at that. I'm glad that they tied it up so succinctly.
And it's not actually his Katra. It's just Picard has all these memories of him.
I really wish they had opened with this. I'm here to tell you your father's dead. We've been looking for you. You're considered a political refugee. What is going on? Just kind of hit him with all these things all at once.
But that's a great reaction on Nimoy's part.
Oh, totally.
But if they'd done it at the beginning, it might have thrown him off. Like he might need like a couple of days after this happens.
Yep.
Well, we made it through one of the most important episodes of Star Trek, but not one of the most fun, I would say.
It was important because it's a pivotal moment that sets up a lot of canon, or, well, it depends on how you want to argue about it, whether or not if the movies are canon or not in the Kelvin world universe. But anyway, boy, I don't know. I just because it's important doesn't mean it's fun.
Right.
Like you said, I'd probably give this out of it 3 out of 5. For story development, 5 out of 5. I mean, it's there. It's kind of like Schoolhouse Rocks. We just kind of have to explain how things work in a fun way. But as a kid, the most exciting part was when the Romulans destroyed their invasion fleet and when Worf was singing Klingon operas.
Yep.
That was cool. We got to see a little bit of the characters let down their hair. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say season 5 is a little different because you see a lot of these little moments where they're just filling space with characters being themselves or having small talk.
Yeah.
And that's a nice development for season 5 compared to everything was just kind of stiff-nosed by the book in prior seasons.
Yeah, we're creeping up on Alexander about to become a member of the crew.
Yeah. What was your rating on this?
2.5 to 3. Again, super important episode, but I went and watched this. I was so excited for Spock, and I went and watched it at my aunt's house, over in Edmonds, little 9-year-old Patrick sitting on the floor while the adults talked about other stuff and kind of came and went. And I think there was probably a room full of Star Trek fans from the 60s that if something exciting had happened in the episode would have probably been pulled into it. But you got your neck pinch, you got your eyebrow raised, you got your live long and prosper, but it's not a fun episode. And Star Trek, I think, does have an obligation to, when they do a crossover like this, be fun.
Yeah.
Will we decide that Relics is fun? Find out next week.
Well, I think they got it right with Scotty. All right. Well, let's see here. What's our next episode coming up? A Matter of Time, if I remember correctly.
Well, the game is the next episode, which
is it?
We have already recorded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice.
So yeah, we'll get together and record A Matter of Time in a couple of weeks.
Great.
I'm excited to do because that is a fun episode.
I love that episode.
Yeah.
Well, it's where we have a kleptomaniac from the future who's really from the past who likes to steal things and sees Data and gets a massive android boner and says, like, you're coming with me. So, I mean, that's kind of neat.
Is an android boner a lightsaber or a sonic screwdriver? Which do you think?
Sonic screwdriver.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening along. We appreciate you guys having us, and with that, I'd like to say have a nice day. Yay! Music provided by lofigirl.com. Artists include Tenno, Daydreaming, BVG in Mondberg, Insomnia, WYS, Snowman, Be Calm and Banks, Because. Episode cover art created by Matthew Kirschner. Podcast logo and main cover art provided by David Clawwitter. Audio engineering done by Sascha Schaudies.